Welcome to the Rock is George podcast. I'm your host, George Dionne, and this is episode 124. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to hit like, follow, or subscribe on the platform that you're listening on. You can also check me out at theloudest.com on the planet, knac.com, for exclusive interviews, live show coverage, album reviews, and more, only available at knac.com. My guest for this episode is vocalist Lee Small. You may know Lee from his work with the UK hard rock act Shy. You also may know Lee from the UK melodic rock act Lionheart. Their last studio album, The Reality of Miracles, was a fantastic album, made my top 10 list of that year. Lee is also a member of the UK classic rock act Sweet. He wears a lot of hats, I gotta say. In addition to all the bands that Lee contributes to, he has a new solo album coming out on May 26th called The Last Man on Earth. Lee's calling this a return to his AOR roots, referring to the bands that he's a part of. His last solo album in 2021, Chameleon, was more of a soul and reggae affair. Lee is very versatile when it comes to vocals. His latest solo album, The Last Man on Earth, is definitely going to make my top 10 of the year. It is a fantastic release, harkens back to the AOR of the late 70s, early 80s with modern production. I had the chance to talk to the man himself all about the solo album, his side projects, and his recent health scare. So here's vocalist Lee Small. If I knew absolutely nothing about Lee Small, how would you describe your music to me?
To describe myself, my music, I would just say melodic, soulful, and 100% honest.
I'd have to agree with that. And you certainly like to mix it up. Your last solo album, Chameleon, was a little more on the soul and reggae side, but your upcoming album, The Last Man on Earth, out May 26th through Meadowville, is more of an AOR affair, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the reason for that really is because I've kind of been known, I suppose, for being involved with a lot of melodic AOR, bands. But whenever I've did a solo affair, I've never actually ever done an AOR album. I've always kind of left that to the bands I was in and tried to do something a bit diverse. But over the years, there's been a lot of people saying, "Oh, I wish you would do an AOR album," from your own heart, So it's been a long while coming, but this is it.
Well, it's a fantastic outcome. I've been listening to the album all week.
Thank you.
I love it. It definitely captures the sound and the soul of 70s and 80s AOR.
That's brilliant. That's job done then. That's lovely, mate. Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted it to do. I wanted it to have especially, an 80s feel that was deliberate really as well. I wanted that retro vibe to it, and I wanted it to sound authentic. I wanted it to sound like music where I grew up with,
Let's talk a little bit about the single that you released, The Last Man on Earth, good lead off song to the album. If you want to talk a little bit about the story behind the lyrics on that one.
Yeah, I mean the song itself, obviously the title, which is the album title. Obviously, it's the lead single from the self-titled album. The imagery for The Last Man on Earth. I've always been into sci-fi and classic movies and stuff, so it's a bit of a nod of respect to Vincent Price, and the Last Man on Earth movie, what he did, with the title. And I just thought visually, it's got with a space vibe, it's visually the world's your oyster, for the artwork, which is what Tristan who done it. He's gone and he's really done that tenfold. He's done an amazing job of that. But the actual song itself isn't about that at all. It's about the actual song is really about a volatile relationship. And so it's I love the play on words, leaving me standing like a last man on earth, and I always love lyrics like that. I love to be able to play with words and stuff, I find that challenging,
Another song that you released from the album is Revolution. Well, actually, you haven't released it yet from the album. Revolution Road. You did a duet with Dan Reed of the Dan Reed Network.
I
He
did,
put out a
yes.
great album this year too. How did you meet up with Dan Reed for this one?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I did actually meet, because he doesn't remember, I don't think, but I did meet Dan many, many years ago. I mean, I've always been a big fan of the Dan Reed Network. I mean, just after Slam had come out, I picked up Slam, and I was just, I'd never heard anything like it. It was just like, wow, what is this? And so I immediately went and searched for the actual self-titled album straight after. And so I'd kind of discovered Slam before the first album, and then obviously The Heat. And I was just a massive Dan Reed fan, and the network, when I'd seen them when they did Rock City back in '93, and I've seen Dan various on his when he comes over on his own, from his acoustic days to back with the Dan Reed Network again. We've seen him in London, and it was just amazing. So I've always been a big fan of Dan Reed. When I wrote, all the songs on this album have been co-wrote by a guy called Sonny Steven. He's an Australian guy, but he was at the time when we recorded the album, he was living in LA. He's just recently moved to Texas now to get out of the madness, like as they say, But so he wrote a lot of the music, really, and I wrote obviously the melodies and the lyrics and stuff like this. So when we penned Revolution Road, to go around the houses a little bit, but as soon as it was done, it just had Dan Reed all over it. I could hear Dan singing this song, and I just thought, I really want him on this record. So a friend of mine at the time had just gone working with him, and I just so I dropped him a line, and I just said to him, I says, would you drop Dan a line for me, and see if he wants to speak? I've got a song I want him to do. So cutting a long story short, I got in touch with Dan. I sent him the track. He come back and he absolutely loved the track, and it all went from there, really. And I mean, he loved the track that much. He ended up like arranging some of it and playing Moog. He put some Moog keyboards on it, and all the end jamming on it. From there's a section at the end of the song after, because we all find a revolution, right? And he goes dun dun dun, and then he goes into a jam, this outro and whatever. That was all Dan Reed. He added all that himself, And he come back and he went, I've done all this. And I went, fantastic. It really changed the song for the better, So that's kind of how that came around, really. And it was a bucket list. It's a bit of a bucket list thing for me, one I've ticked off now, to think I've sang with one of my heroes. Do
you have another single planned from the album?
Yes, there's one more single to come, and that's a song called Silhouettes. Initially, that was going to be a duet as well. Nobody knows that. And it was going to, it was all arranged. One of the bands I was into as a kid in the early 80s, what shaped the way of melodic rock for me was a band called Zeno. I don't know if you remember Zeno from 1986. They did an album, and it's Uli John's Roth's younger brother, Zeno Roth. And he's no longer with us anymore. But I went and seen him in 1986, opening in Birmingham Odeon, opening for Black Sabbath. And it was like, whoa, what is this band? That was just so cool. I immediately went out and bought the album as soon as it came out. And that album, if you've never heard it, the Zeno Eastern Sun, it's called Eastern Sun. That album, it stands up to this day. It's such an important record, I think, for melodic rock, and it just changed the way I thought and sang, and wrote music at the time. It was just commercially brilliant, And so the singer on that album was called Michael Flexig, and I just thought I really wanted to get Michael on it as well, and so he agreed to do it, to do the song for me. And then sadly he became ill, literally about 2 weeks before the deadline of the album had got to go in, because it was one of the last things we wanted to get on. And so he'd agreed to do it. We'd all got the session arranged in Hanover in Germany for him. The studio was there, booked for him, and then he caught COVID really bad, and he lost his voice and everything. And sadly, he couldn't meet the schedule, the deadline, So that one had to go begging, really, which is a real shame. but else he would have been on the new that's the next single, so you would have been on that, and it's just it was just a shame how that one worked out, but taking nothing away for the song, it's a great song, and people are already singling that one out, saying, in the reviews and stuff, so but it just would have been more special, I think, if we'd have got Michael on it.
Right. One of my favorites is the Nakatomi heist, maybe because it references Die Hard, but maybe you have a double meaning in there. I don't know.
No, it's it's a ritual in our house, in our household. Every Christmas, we have to watch the Die Hard movies, mate. Every year, do you know? Because people argue the toss on there. Some people say Die Hard's not a Christmas movie. It's 100% a Christmas movie, And obviously, recently what's going on with poor Bruce as well. It's a nod of respect to Bruce, and for really one of the finest movies, and the sequels as well. They're just amazing. So, I like to, instead of just writing the obvious songs, I love a challenge, and I like writing about different subjects. So I thought, well, that one's never been done before. So here you go.
Perfect. Now we have it, and it could be a Christmas song.
And it can be, yeah. So who knows? That might be a Christmas single. Who knows? You've heard it here first.
The Big Unknown is another single from the album. If you want to talk a little bit about that song.
Yeah, that came really late, to be honest. And the album was done, and we needed an extra song. And initially the song was recorded by, it's a cover. It was recorded by the soul singer Sade. And it was her big comeback single in something like 2015, I think, on a soundtrack of a movie called Widows, and which was a remake of a TV series from the early 80s in the UK, and about the wives of some dead bank robbers, basically, picking up the old plans and going out doing it. I don't know if anybody ever seen the film, obviously, but it was. It was great, and this song was on there, and it was just such a beautiful song, and I could hear myself doing it, and I didn't want to do it exactly the same, so that song came right at the end, and it was the producer of the whole album, Tom Cory. I just said to Tom, I says, I want to do this song. What do you think? And he played absolutely everything. Within about 4 hours, I got the backing track back, and he'd done all the music for it and whatever. And this guy works so fast. I thought I worked fast, but he works so fast. And so we came, we got the extra track, basically, come out really well. And we decided to put that one out at Christmas again. It's not a Christmas song, but we did a remix version of it, this frankincense mix. And we added all Christmas, the Christmas sleigh bells and all that sort of stuff on that version, what came out for Christmas. But the version on the album it's just a bog standard version. It's all the sleigh bells are gone.
Tom Cory produced Last Man on Earth, and he worked with you previously on the Sweets last album, correct?
He did, yes, and he's the bolt-on man. He's like the fifth member of the Sweet when we go playing any live gigs. He's basically, he comes on stage and he basically plays. He stands to my left, actually. He stands right by me, and he plays second guitar for Andy, and he plays all the keyboard stuff live, and he adds another voice in as well. He's like the fifth harmony, in the voice. And he's actually we got a brand new Sweet album coming out in June. It should be June, and it's all original material again. It's all brand new stuff, the first time for years, and that's called Full Circle. And Tom, we call him TC. Tom is engineered and produced that as well. So there's a plug for him. He's only in his 20s, can believe it or not. These whiz kids, so they've just got it. They leave us all us old ones now. They leave us all standing. He's so good, but he's I don't usually say genius that often, but he's like a musical genius,
You got like a who's who of guitarists on this album. You mentioned Sonny here and Steve Mann from your band Lionheart and Tommy
Yeah,
Demander and Fabrizio's Gagatoni from Jeff Scott Soto. I mean,
yeah.
obviously calling in favors from friends. Is that what it was?
Do you know what, mate? It's been I'm humbled by the guys who's helped me out on this record. You know, it's just without them, you know, and I mean that without these guys, you know, this album wouldn't have been nowhere near what it is. You know, and I was just you know, I really was just overwhelmed by the help I've got with it, really, and it's just a who's who of some of the best players around, really, you know, and the play out the skin on the record, you know, they really make it for what it is. And I've got to give it a shout out to Edu as well. Edu Caminata, the Brazilian drummer. He's played on this and he's just incredible, you know, and he actually plays with Jeff sometimes, and he's known from Jeff Tate from Queensryche. He's his drummer, you know, from his solo band. But it's just phenomenal. So, you know, the energy that Edu put into the record as well, everything turned on its head again when he come on board, you know.
And you mentioned earlier artist Tristan Greatrex. He does the Lionheart album covers. He did your album cover. So obviously somebody that you trust.
He absolutely. I mean, that guy is just so good, and he's a really good friend now as well. You know, and I mean, he's not a lot of people know, but the English legendary rock band UFO. Tris did many covers for UFO, and on the last Orders tour, he even designed all the backdrop what you see on stage. He's like a silent member of UFO. You know, he's done that many. But the guy is a creative. His creativity is just second to none, you know, and I give him the concept, you know, and I just said a few little things what I would like on there, and he just come back and brought the whole album to life, you know, with what he's done. And we was blessed the fact that Metalville have backed us all the way, and we've got a beautiful digipack where they've just given so many pages of booklets. They've just said, do what you want, you know, and so he's just been in his element, really. And even with the vinyl as well, there's a limited run of 500 blood red transparent vinyl, 12-inch vinyl, with a gatefold. And again, you know, with the gatefold sleeve, he's just been able to do some amazing things, really. But it's his attention to detail, because he just, on the inner sleeves, you know, they're not just plain inner sleeves, they're crammed with information and photos, and my whole discography is there, and absolutely everything. I mean, the guy is just, you know, you get your value for money with him. You know, he's you know, anybody who buys the record, you know, they'll see it's a thing of beauty, really, you know, on either format, you know.
I'm one of those 500. I pre-ordered mine yesterday.
Oh, you're a star. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, you won't be, it's just gorgeous, you know. And it was originally, there was a slight mix-up at their pressing plant with that as well for the vinyl. Initially, it was going to be, we designed it to be like a burnt orange looking disc, and then we got a message back from saying, "Oh, there's been a mix-up. You know, it's been pressed in blood in red vinyl," and we was thinking, "Oh no," you know, and it was sometimes these things are meant to be, because it just looks gorgeous with the shade of red it is as well, you know. It's kind of a bit like Bat Out of Hell, you know, that when Meatloaf put the blood red vinyl on that, it's exactly the same. It's just gorgeous, you know. So that was a happy accident, really, you know.
So I see that you mentioned in the past that this is your last solo album. I know you've had some health issues earlier this year. I mean, sometimes when we get sick, we say things and think, you know, the negative of everything, but have things changed, or is this going to be your last solo album?
You know, I mean, I'm not sure, to be honest. You know, I look at this one, and I mean, I've threw everything into this record, really, and you know, and I'm thinking I like to move forward, although I like to better what I've done in the past, or move in a different direction, whatever I do. Hence, when I did the reggae album last, because, you know, I did that when I was for instance, when I was in lockdown, you know, and it came about. I mean, I've always loved reggae and stuff, like, for instance, that one, and I wasn't going out with, you know, I was just withdrawn, and I was just exercising, walking around the house, and I started putting all my old island Bob Marley records on, and I was doing exercises, walking around the house. It was like it's like a Formula One track. I'm burnt holes in all my carpet, through lockdown doing my exercises. But I was listening to the Bob Marley stuff, and I thought, I need something to get me out of this, and I need to do something. So when I did the reggae album, it was a case of, it was something different, and I thought, I've got a love for that, so I needed a different challenge. So I try and be a bit diverse, and where a lot of artists probably wouldn't be able to get away with it. I don't know why. I seem to be able to get away with. There's a lot of strings sides to my personality, the way my musical personality, and I seem to be able to have a loyal fan base where they accept what I do to a degree, so that was that, and obviously I've done southern rock albums, I've kind of blues albums, I've done all sorts of stuff. But with the AOR album now, I think to myself, well, I've covered so much stuff now. What's left for me to go? Where do I start covering old ground? So obviously I had my heart attack in February, and you do say these things. Is it the last thing? And so the only thing what's came out of it, I'm feeling a lot better. Obviously, I was in a negative place, believe me, so the one thing that's come out of it is I've got to look after myself better. I've started to get myself more in shape, eat healthier, so it affects my brain, and I can think different. But I'm having a cutback on a lot of work. Over the years, why I've been in this position, I've took too much work on, and so I think it'll be as and when, if I do another solo album, I've got to be in the right mindset. But at this present moment, I can't see me doing another one. But never say never. I've done this in the past. I've gone, I did a box set of stuff, and I thought that's I packaged the last 3 albums I did, and that was it, and then 2 years later, well, behold, I've got another album, which I didn't expect, So that's the way I work, It kind of comes out of nowhere, If I want to do something, it'll, if it tends to, find its way,
Well, I'm glad that you're feeling better, and I'm sure
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm in a lot better place. I'm still undergoing a lot of tests, and I'm back on the road this week. We go back. We're in Germany with the Suite Thursday. We got 3 shows there, so that'll be my first 3 shows back since my incident. And I've just obviously been told to take it easy and pace myself, and but mentally, I think if anything, it's going to do me good as well, because it does. It's. I cannot tell you how it's mentally affected me. It does affect your confidence and everything. You just, it's a strange thing to happen. What at 55, I would never have expected that to happen to me. But it leaves its scars.
I can understand it. I had lung failure from COVID pneumonia, so
really?
It was hard coming back from that, and there was certainly.
I can believe that. Yeah. Wow. So you know what I mean, yeah.
So I felt, this is it. This is the end. I'm never going to get better. But you get through by the grace of God, and you're here today talking to me. You got your album out. You got going out with the Suite. Everything's looking good.
That's it. It's all, and yourself, obviously, you're looking good, and it wasn't our time. Do you know what I mean? We're lucky. We get a second chance. A lot of people don't get that. So that's the way I kind of I'm trying to embrace on that positivity.
Absolutely. Do you get a chance to go out and play your solo material live?
Not really. I mean, I don't know if I'll be able to really at the moment, and I just don't know if I physically can. I mean, that's where mentally, where it's. I've just the one thing what I've been left with is fatigue. That's the thing. What I'm struggling with more than anything. Is fatigue. And I get tired a lot more since. And with the Suite, it's it's easy. I can get up there and play the bass, and kind of like just in and out. I do a little bit of lead, but I can do some backing vocals and stuff like that. And it's small steps. Do you know what I mean? It's small steps. Whether I can get back out and do an hour and a half lead show again, I don't know if I could manage it at the moment. So it's a shame, because the songs are great, and I would love to get out there, but I mean, if I could get, in better shape, down the line, I'm not saying I'm not going to rule it out. There's always a few friends I can call up and dial up, and go, should we tread the boards and do a little few things, So that would be great to do. It's a nice thought, So, but at the moment, it's not going to happen at the moment.
Are you still going to be playing with Attack at the Massive Wagons Festival in August?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it. Obviously I was scheduled to do it, but again, it's whether it's too soon for me, and I just don't want to. It's just mentally and physically, really, stamina wise, if I can do it, because it's, as we aging veteran singers. I say veteran now, because I've been, even in 2017, when we went out to Japan for some shows, there was all the reviews. There was all calling me a veteran singer out there. Then, I'm a few years down the line now since, So the older we get, the harder it gets. Do you know what I mean? So it's just more demanding, really, to sing up there like I do in the range. I sing, and so before the illness, I would have said, yeah, I'm going to do it. But at the moment, I'll be a liar if I says I'm going to be there, because I just don't know what's going to happen, but things can change. A couple of months down the line, I could feel better in myself, and so I'm not going to rule it out. But they've got somebody, I think, on hand. I think if I can't do it, I think they're going to have somebody to step in, but because the band will still be, performing.
I think you're still the young guy in Lionheart and the Sweet, at least by a decade.
Yes, I think so. I am, mate. Yes, that's it. I'm the baby. Well, apart from TC now, apart from Tom Cory, who comes in, which is in his 20s. But it's just unfortunate. I'm the one who has to stand by him. It makes me look even older. But now, yeah, I am at the actual four of us. I'm the youngest one, mate. Yeah.
Have you been working in the studio in the meantime, since you're not going to focus too much on live performances just yet?
Yeah, we went back in with Sweet last month, and say last month, about 3 weeks ago, just putting some final touches to the album there, and I wasn't obviously sure if I was going to be able to get in there, but I just managed to get in there and do a little bit of backing vocals and stuff, and that did me good as well. It's all, like I say, about taking baby steps back in, but luckily there wasn't much left for me to do. It's all been done, you know what I mean? So if there was any good time for me to have what happened, it was, do you know what I mean? But well, there's never a great time, obviously, to have anything like that, but you know what I'm trying to say, it's left me with, it happened when I've got a lot of the work done, so.
You working on new Lionheart music?
It's in the can, mate, more or less, and it's the best Lionheart album, I would say, to date. And it's a concept album, I can say that, and it's all about none of us. Obviously, we don't want to get into politics and stuff like that, but it's an anti-war record, really, and it's all about. It's set in 1944. The whole album it's a concept record, and it's all about the home front. It's all about how the effects of war affects everyday people. So we deliberately didn't want to do anything warmongering. We're not like Iron Maiden or anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, we wanted to do just do the definitive home front record, and I think it really is. It's probably the best thing we've done. Certainly the best lyrics I think I've ever penned to date. Really, there's some really meaningful stuff on there, and Steve Mann has wrote 90% of the music, and he's just on fire. It's just so powerful. It's just incredible.
I'm looking forward to that release for sure. Wondering if you're going to have another record under the Signal Red banner with Steve Grocott. That was a fantastic album, Alien Nation.
Thank you. I mean, there is going to be another one. It's been down to me, really. I mean, but there's been, because I've been not had the time to do anything really. Steve's been there writing songs, and it's what I said to him, the beginning of last year. I says, keep writing, and he has, and again, I think it's going to be a really strong record. The songs he's been doing, but we've got one down. That's all I managed to do so far. So there's one recorded fully, but there's obviously another at least 10 or 11 songs to go. And it's just obviously, sadly, I was going to be doing some the beginning of the year. That was a bit of a window to start working back on that. And then obviously this happened in February, and it's just put everything on the back burner again. But so he's probably, if I know, he's probably self-frustrated with me, but he knows obviously it's not my fault. It's just I've either been working with it, just the work commitments, and then obviously when I became ill, he was obviously concerned then. And but there will be another one, and the stuff he's turning out musically is going to be, it's brilliant. So that'd be one to watch, I think, again. I'm blessed with all these great guys around me. I wonder sometimes, I think, I must be really lucky to work with these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the talent on top of being lucky.
Oh, bless. Yeah, thank you. And it's just, I think it's about chemistry. It's like, with Steve Greatrex again, and all these guys have got different personalities musically, because Steve writes in a different way. He writes in his own way, and my style just gels lovely with him, And again with Lionheart, with Steve Mann, who writes, like I say, 90% of the stuff, we got a great musical understanding. And I think that's what it's all about. It's, if you can connect musically, and get on the same page, and you bring the best out of it, whichever project it is, you bring the best out of each other all the while, And I do like to write, like with this new album, like with The Last Man on Earth, writing with Sony Steven, we got, I can't write like that anymore. My style's changed so much over the years. I can't write in the style I used to write, which was like the AOR convincingly, where he can, and I love the Doobie Brothers. I love Michael McDonald, and he can do all that sort of stuff. So together we fused our influences, and there's a few, as you know, that on the new album, there's a few different sounds, a few different styles but it's all classic AOR 80s sounding stuff. So even though this takes a slight detour down a different avenue, do you know what I mean? It all belongs on the same record, It doesn't set out of place.
Absolutely. Those are all the questions I have for you today, Lee. The new album, Last Man on Earth, comes out May 26th through Metalville. I can't wait to get that vinyl version of it. I've been listening to the advanced copy. Fantastic stuff. Probably your top solo album, maybe even bests your work with bands too. It's really good.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I really, really appreciate that. And there's been a few saying the same thing, I mean, you take some of the critics and stuff will say, like, a lot of my solo stuff, and it's just preference, really. I think because I've not done, till now, I've not done what I do as a solo artist, what I do with the bands, and a lot of critics would say that some of my solo material hasn't lived up to the standard of my band material, but they're all saying so far that this one does, so, hey, you're only as good as your latest record, aren't you?
That's right. And I want to thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast today.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Once again, I want to thank Lee Small for coming on the Rock is George podcast. Be sure to check out his latest solo album, The Last Man on Earth, out on May 26th through Metalville Records. Head over to your favorite music streaming app. Take a listen to what's available now. If you like what you hear, buy a physical copy. Support the artist. For all things Lee Small, head over to his official website, lee-small.com. I also want to thank Nathan T. Burke and Metalville Records for making this interview possible. You've been great. I've been George Dionne. I'll see you again soon.